Charlie Gasparino, RealClearPolitics national political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns, and National Review contributing editor Deroy Murdock. Deroy, I would begin with you. There is a dichotomy here, a split. Someone's nuts. Who is it?
Well, look, who were the people about a month ago, or I guess on the first anniversary of the election, who were outside in public parks screaming at the tops of their lungs? These are the people who opposed Donald J. Trump. What was Donald J. Trump doing a few weeks ago? He was negotiating and making decisions on the biggest overhaul of the U.S. tax code in 31 years. These are very, very complex, very detailed decisions he had to make. From all reports, he was deeply involved in all of this, and that did not look to me like the work of a madman.
What do you think, Caitlin?
Well, this administration does have a lot to tout, and they did so at the end of last year. Tax reform being chief among them is a huge legislative accomplishment. The unraveling of regulations under the Obama administration, whether or not you agree with them, they can count that as an accomplishment. Again, the judicial appointments are huge. But yet the president is tweeting about what he really wants to talk about, which is, the nuclear button with North Korea, the, engaging the author of this book on the question about mental stability and fitness. He could easily have ignored that. There's plenty of information out there that shows some big flaws in this book, and yet he continues to engage this conversation, which raises the question of why does he want to talk about this? Why not just move on to the things that you described?
Markets are really rational beings. They don't really have political sides, and they look at Trump in this way. And listen, you and I both have criticized his tweets a lot. We don't like it. We think it takes him off message. But markets are just saying, it's funny. They're saying we don't care about what he says about the button thing.
Yes.
Even though that sounds really outrageous and stupid. The market's saying we don't care about that. We don't believe he's going there. Markets are saying,
also don't take him seriously with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
They think
that's take seriously. It's an economic and market agenda that is seriously making folks a lot of money.
Look at this. I mean, it's pretty simple. Barack Obama came out of the financial crisis into the Great Recession and basically threatened to raise taxes, impose mandates on companies, did impose mandates on companies. He basically hindered a recovery that was out of the way when the Fed started to essentially print money. He slowed down. It was both stimulative on the Fed's case and destimulative on Obama's case, which is totally irrational.
Well, whether you want to give President Obama credit for that, we came out of a meltdown.
I know, but the steps he took coming out of that meltdown were pretty irrational from an economic standpoint.
You could make an argument there, but I'm just saying it's not as if he sat his hands and did nothing.
No, but he did some bad things. Okay. And that's the reason why we have President Trump. And here's the thing. 7 years, we had an economic expansion, very weak, and it was supposed to end after 7 years. And it didn't. And that's the biggest
Maybe because it was weak, right? And that has a longer shelf life.
I would say, as someone who doesn't give this president a lot of credit on a lot of things.
Yeah, because you hate everyone.
I hate everyone equally. He did some very smart things with regulations in the economy that kept this thing going. And not only going, it's now accelerating.
Yeah,
right?
And now the private sector is stepping in. I've counted Americans for Tax Reform put together a list of about 117 companies that are now extending bonuses, 401k contributions, $400 million in charitable donations from Wells Fargo. So the private sector
picking up the largest share of their health insurance company.
A largest share of their the Baltimore Power Company. They're now lowering their rates by 5.2%. This is all great stuff. So the private sector is stepping in.
But let's be real fair here, because
this
is kind of an investing show. People might say, well, I mean, I buy the stocks. There are things out there that could snuff this out.
Absolutely.
Inflation, a bubble in junk bonds or something where the Fed has to radically raise interest rates. Inflation is another one. They have to radically raise interest. A war, obviously. Trump engaging his inner populist and going and trying to get rid of NAFTA. And one other thing, who knows what's going to happen in April when the personal side of this tax cuts kicks in and people in a lot of states find that they're going to be paying more in taxes.
Do you think it would make a difference, Caitlin, and it does make a difference having a businessman in the office? People may call him crazy as a bedbug or whatever. But we would not be where we are on these markets in this improving economy without someone like Donald Trump in the office, without Donald Trump being there.
I don't know, because you could argue that this tax bill could have been passed under a traditional Republican in most senses.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of what he's done is in the more traditional Republican route. So
but it's not crazy. I mean, I think that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is not crazy. What he did was incredibly sane. A crazy man would have indulged Steve Bannon right off the bat and said, let's get rid of NAFTA.
Well, let me get your thoughts. Charlie, hang on to that, because Jamie Dimon was talking to Maria Bartiromo about how people have to step back from this tax cut and see the advantages. Listen to this.
They took away the SALT deduction. You're a New Yorker. You live in New York. You lost the ability to deduct the state and local taxes. Was that the right move?
It's a hard question. The answer is yes. It should. I always look at questions, what should have been? It should never have been there. It should never have been there. Now, how they phase it out, remember, by increasing the standard deduction, having the $10,000, I haven't seen real analysis yet, 70% of people get to keep it. It's the 30% making over $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 don't get to keep it. And so I think it does create a burden for New York. But, New York City and New York State can help figure it out, and maybe they'll change it at one point. But I always ask, what's the right thing to do? Answer that question first before you start yelling and screaming about what's good for me, particularly if you're a patriot. And so we have all these flaws in the system as people protect their own special interests, which I think is just a huge mistake.
He was talking about those making 200,000, 300,000, or 400,000 who are going to get walloped.
And but you should know that Jamie made last year multi-millions.
More than we did.
But he says that you have to be a patriot and quit whining.
Right. He should be a patriot. I would say this. Jamie Dimon is a newcomer to supply-side economics. And I love Jamie. Good guy. I've known him for years. I knew him when neither of us had gray hair. So I'll put it to you this way. Real tax reform is when you take down the rates and eliminate the deductions.
But he's saying, with all of that, this is better.
Well, it's net better. But I'm just saying.
Do you argue that it's better?
Well, yes, I think this is better because what we're already seeing in certain states is people who normally be raising taxes. We better not raise the taxes, or people are going to run like hell. This has already happened in New Jersey. One other thing that President
not
Trump
so fast. They might change their minds on.
They might, but they're certainly tapping on the brakes. Right. But one other thing that President Trump has done that I think is very sane, and not just the regulations and lowering the taxes, but tone. Under Obama, we got, you didn't build that. You're a businessman. You're bad. You're terrible. You're the bad guy.
I know.
Under President Trump, we've got, you're a good guy. You create jobs. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. And just that tone.
I wonder if he would say that about Oprah. She built her $1 billion fortune.
She was self-made billionaire.
He has in the past.
He has in the past.
What I'm watching, too, as we're heading into the midterms is whether the president gets credit from the public for any of this, right? We're already seeing in polls that, yes, people think the economy is getting better on paper. Yes, some say that it's getting better for them, but they're not giving the president credit for that. And this tax bill is very unpopular. There is the opportunity, of course, for those ratings to improve.
The Democrats demagogued and Paul Ryan and those guys. Listen, the real pitfall in this tax cut is not that middle-class people, working-class people who don't pay a lot of federal income tax as opposed to payroll tax will get a tax cut. It's going to be tiny. Paul Ryan allowed the Democrats to demagogue this. Where this tax bill, I think, could run into trouble and it could be problematic, and I don't know because you have to see how it sorts out in April, is on the personal side. I am telling you that people pay state and local income taxes in Iowa, in Minnesota. It's not just New York that is getting screwed here.
I mean, the Democrats' path to the majority in the House runs through a slew of states in California where they're going to get hit, a bunch of states in New Jersey, and a bunch of districts in New Jersey and New York. So to take those alone, they're banking on this to have the effect that you're talking about.
All they need is 24.
Yeah,
all they need is 24, and you're already seeing retirements in some of these
If
states.
the GDP growth is at 3.5%, 4%, I think that overwhelms all these other things. If the economy is charging forth,
well, you have to feel it in that moment.
Particularly among young people, I have a lot of young friends who are in their 20s and early 30s. They've never seen an economy that's growing. They've only seen low growth, people at each other's throats, racial tension. If people can pay their bills and people are happy, it'll be a totally different environment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but this is a question mark on the personal side here. Listen. If you make $200,000 a year and you're getting a tax increase,
you're not being a patriot.
That's insane.
You're not being a patriot.
But if your business is doing better, if you're getting a pay raise, if you're getting
they're not going to spend.
It's all about Charlie. All about Charlie. Me.
And this is where the fitness and the stability of the White House comes into play, right? So if you are seeing benefits from this, is this going to rally you to turn out and vote for more Republicans, or is this going to be something that energizes
Well, I think, Caitlin, you got to feel it by next November. It's got to be immediate. It's got to be something that's not a delayed effect.
Exactly.
And it's got to be more than $10 a week in your paycheck.
It's got to be
someone's not being a patriot again. As these guys were talking, just want to let you know, as expected, I think we touched on this, or the prior hour did, but Joe Arpaio is going to run for that Senate seat held by Jeff Flake. So here we go. More to this.